All right, we're going to go ahead and get started because I know you're here today to learn from Carol, as am I. My name is Monica Huntsberry. I am a host and advisor for Revel 11. I am in support of the two co-founders, Joni Parsons and Monica Smith, who are not here with us today, but Natalia is running behind the scenes. Thank you, Natalia. And we are here to talk about movement. And I don't know about you, but movement and the idea sometimes of running or being an athlete or being fit can be somewhat intimidating to somebody like me who's at that midlife point and hasn't been a natural athlete their entire life. And so when I met Carol, who I'm going to tell you a little bit about today, I just really appreciated her approach to embracing really a mindset around movement and the importance of daily practices. And she has a lot to share, so I won't spoil that, but a little bit about Carol. She is the author of the Fit School Diet Plan, 1 year to Nutritionally and Physically Fit, which is an e-book. She earned an MS in Kinesiology from the University of Colorado while working with athletes who would go on to become Olympians. That's really powerful. She was an undergraduate of Penn State University. There she was a member of both cross-country, track, and field teams. She is the founder and president of the Fit School, where she provides coaching and presentations on finding one's power and well-being through movement. And I have been divulging her latest book, 26.2 Life Lessons, which is a very, very creative collective that she did in partnership with Cami Osterman. And I'm sure we'll be talking a little bit about that today too. But first of all, welcome, Carol.
Thank you, Monica, and thank you, Revel 11. I'm so excited to be here and to talk about movement and to get you inspired. And I think I told Monica before we began, I'm like, I want to make sure everyone comes that way with one thing that they can do in the next 12 hours, so make it relevant to you. So make sure you have your notes or, your phone so you can write in something you're going to do in your calendar.
All right, great. I appreciate the challenge. We're kicking off with the challenge.
Yeah.
So Carol, you have been running for 40 years, is that right?
40 years since I've been 12 years old. And I've always just loved it. It was always my freedom, so I was lucky enough to be good at it and just kept running and running. I was a farm girl and, it helped me be the first generation to go to college because of that. So it's really opened up so many doors to me. And I just, I've coached everyone from, middle school students when I was a teacher to, I think my oldest student was 86. So, just the range of people and, knowing that when someone say they're in their 60s, I've seen this many times, and, they didn't think they were an athlete or didn't think they could do anything. And then they find out, they gradually work with me and then they can run a mile. And it's like the first time they run a mile, they're like, well, what else have I been holding myself back in? And, just to see that light up and like, there's other things I can do. So I always say, I like to empower people through walking and running programs, because once you can do that, you're like, hey, what else have I thought I couldn't do that I could do?
Oh, I love that. So just to kind of set the stage for everyone joining today, the ambition here isn't to make everyone a runner. Not everybody's a runner. You happen to love running, but it's also to talk about movement in general and the ways that keeping our bodies moving can empower us and open other doors and opportunities. For you happen to love running and be good at it, and you took that passion and you applied it to teaching and helping others on the importance of movement.
Yes. And that's what I want to talk about today is, even 10 minutes a day, being consistent, making it a practice, anytime we can make something a practice and part of our lives that enlightens us or makes our life a little better is always just a gift. And that's what we're going to talk about. Everyone's like, oh, you should work out, we should be doing a lot of things. You should eat better. We should do this. And I always say, that's shooting on yourself. We want instead make it a gift, like, oh, I get, this movement. I feel like I can, my arms are getting stronger. I can, lift those iron skillets that we have in our cabinet, and making life a little easier. And and Monica, if you don't mind, I would like to tell a story about, why, one of the women that I've worked with, because, about movement and why it's important. Is that okay with you if I
Yeah,
share
yeah,
that? And then
please
chime
get
in whenever you
started.
want. Yeah. So Claire, at the time she was 55, and she was lying in bed and she shared the story with me. So I'll try to tell it as best I can. I'm working on my storytelling skills. So she was lying in bed, and she had gone to see her mom, and her mom is having, she's in her 80s and having problems with movement and balance and things like that. And she saw her struggling. And Claire was 55 at the time, and she was lying in bed and she couldn't sleep. And she's like, tomorrow I'm going to get up and I am going to, after work, go directly to the track in their area, in our area. And I'm going to just walk for 10 minutes. I'm just going to do that. And I'm going to do that every day, because I want to be able to move when I'm 80. I want to be able to, do the things I love to do and have a fulfilling life. So she did it. She was determined, and she got to the track. She went to work, went right to the track after, walked for 10 minutes, and just, and she knew why she chose 10 minutes was because, it could be raining, it could be snowing, it could be hot as heck. So she's like, I can endure anything for 10 minutes. So she did that, and she kept doing it. And then after about a month, she was consistent. And then she said, oh, okay, I'm going to, after walking for 5 minutes, I'm going to try to just run really slow, just halfway around the track. And she started doing that all week. And then she's like, after another week, she added a whole track. And she just kept doing that gradually every week, adding a half a track of running. And not, like I said, no one needs to become a runner here, but just how 10 minutes can lead to something, or it can even be your main practice. And, after 6 months, she ran her first 5K, and, now she's 62 and she's run a half marathon, and she just got inspired with that. And like I said, not that you have to do that, but even 10 minutes a day, one thing I always have my clients do is 3-minute core workout. And if you do that every day, you can be really strong. Like that's 1 minute plank, 1 minute crunches, so like sit-ups, and 1 minute push-ups. And you won't be able to do that for the whole minute, and you're allowed to rest as much as you want. But after, if you're doing that every day for 6 months, you are going to be able to do the push-ups and the plank for 1 minute. It's just that practice, getting into that routine. So, and that's one thing I want to talk about too, Monica, is the first thing though we need to do is find out our why. Like, what is your why? And you can say, well, I want to lose weight, that's my why. Or I want to be able to walk a mile. And those things are kind of like, so if you can, something that like gives you a heart sparkle, I call them, like, what's your reason? Like, what's your, and if it can hit you on an emotional level. So Natalie, one client, she said, I've had children later in life. So I would like to if I have grandchildren, I want to see them graduate from high school. So that's her why. Or who was that? Tammy, she said that she wanted to, a lot of people talk about their grandchildren, but, hike in the Colorado mountains with her grandchildren if she ever has them. So that's her why. My why, I have a lot of those. I'd like to be able to do things if I ever have grandchildren, and also just stay active my whole life. And, my dad, he is still alive. He had a heart attack at 59. He was always active. So that means I might have a genetic disposition like you may, or, some things like obesity and things like that in my family. So I want to do everything I can not to have that happen. So that's why I want to stay active. And these are the things you write them down and like, or put them in your notes in your phone and have them pop up in the day. Or, if you decide to work out at your 10 minutes at 5 a.m. and your alarm goes off, maybe have it next to your alarm or on your phone or on your bathroom mirror, on your refrigerator. But just that reminder, like, what is my why? What's that emotional reason? And Monica, do you have a why?
Yeah, I do. And I think this is a really important point. So I do want to pause here. So,
Okay.
so for me also, When I was younger, I had scoliosis and scoliosis surgery. And so I've always had a little bit of challenge with my back and my body. And so it's important for me to keep a strong back, which is so fundamental, throughout the course of my life. And so that's why I want to keep moving. And I think what you're touching on, and someone noted your heart sparkle, that's such a great word. And I think it's important for people is to get in touch with what is that thing that is going to motivate me. So it's not just about a should, it's not just about working out and, all the connotations we get there. If you took the time to come to this call, you're curious about something. And so if you feel inclined to share your why in the chat, you are welcome to. The other thing I want to really make sure we know for the audience is this is your time. So, we can answer, Carol can answer lots of questions. So make sure you put questions in the chat, and we're going to leave time for that at the end so that we can make sure we're answering. So as questions come up, please put them in the chat. So Carol, for me, my why is to maintain a strong back through the course of my life.
Oh, that's excellent. And with that, I always tell people before you start anything, make sure you check with your doctor and things like that. And, having, whether a physical therapist or something to make sure you're doing the exercises correctly, especially if you do, need that with your back. And one thing you may find is as you do the exercises for your core, let's say the plank, is that when you're sitting or when you're walking, the muscles will take some of that jarring, which will take away from the bone. So yeah, anytime you can strengthen that core, that's really good.
Oh, I love what Jennifer wrote. I want to have the energy and stamina to match my toddler and to set a good example. I think setting a good example, that's lovely. Nice.
Oh, that's Jennifer. Hey, Jennifer. Good to see you.
Okay. So what's next after we identify our why?
So after you know your why, the next is what. So if you have a piece of paper, what are the things that heart sparkles again? What kind of movements do you enjoy? And you might need to think back to when you were 10 years old. What did you enjoy? Did you enjoy swimming? Did you enjoy walking? Did you enjoy, and Monica, you'll like this, I think. You inspired me to get a hula hoop. So I have a hula hoop because you showed me, you said you had one last year.
I love my hula hoop.
Yes. And then they're awesome. I mean, I can do it in between a Zoom meeting, like after a Zoom meeting and I need to get to the next one, I can hula hoop for 5 minutes and then get back to my Zoom. So thank you for that. So
I love it. Let's see what people are putting in the chat because I think this is so great. And I'm so inspired that you got a hula hoop. It says, are there alternatives to plank and push-ups for someone with a compromised shoulder and osteoporosis?
Yes, and check. I mean, you can do things against a wall, and you, because you. I always recommend, like, the doctor, try to go to a physical therapist, and athletic trainers are amazing, and they can make sure you're doing everything correctly, and they have great workouts you can do. If you can do hand weights or even your own arms, like just workouts like moving your arms in different directions is great. And I would say if you don't have hand weights, cans of food, whatever you can do, doing push-ups against a wall and making sure it's not hurting. If you feel pain, like, make sure you don't do that movement. But even just, arm twirls, just for 5 minutes, your arms get tired. So just movements that you like, I've since the pandemic occurred, being on Zoom a lot, and I've started, like, in between Zoom meetings with a hula hoop, but always with music. Because it inspires me, and dancing. Dancing can help your mood, and it might not even look pretty. I'm usually in my kitchen, but I'm not a dancer, but I love to move. So things like that, just anything that gives those heart sparkles and that movement.
That's
Is
great.
anyone sharing theirs?
I'm gonna highlight a few things that we're seeing in the chat. There are things I forgot about. Jump rope. I love jump rope. What about hopscotch? I remember that too. That was so fun. Someone is obsessed with rowing, even going out in the winter mornings, dark, cold, and rain. Plus, I love riding my bicycle. That's wonderful. Wonderful.
Awesome. Really good, really good. Oh, when you said about jump roping, my running partner, when the pandemic started and she was at home, she actually bought a pogo stick and went out her, because it was good for it's good for your bones and things like that. And it also that balance as we age is really important. So
And I think even as we're talking about all of these things are great, but just even walking is equally as great. Talk about a little bit about the benefits of just choosing to walk.
yes, and just like not just, but getting out for 10 minutes and look at that. I mean, the endorphins, the mood lift, and your body, just the movement, and is really important. So anytime you can, you know, I always tell people, like, even if the weather's bad, you can endure something for 10 minutes. If you, are in between Zoom meetings or something like that, or even having, toddlers and young children or babies, getting them out too for 10 minutes, even if it's a stroll, just being out there and moving your body is so important. And yeah,
Yes,
so
and someone else commented that their doctor keeps reminding them that movement is medicine, and you can also walk in malls or on indoor tracks. So there are many options, and I love that Gwyneth is over there working out as we're talking. You can be moving as we're talking, and that's the benefit
right.
also of those standing desks and other things. Okay, so what's after our what?
So after your what is your, sorry, I went, is your where. So where do you like to exercise? Like we were saying, outside, maybe you like to go to a gym, maybe you like to go to a swimming pool, open water. And these you might not always be able to get to, but maybe having it as a goal, like, oh, I want to hike this trail somewhere. And then maybe you walk. And walking also, even in your house, I know when I had young babies and toddlers, anything to, whether it's dancing or just walking laps in your house, that's okay too. Just anytime. And if you, make sure you feel safe. And if you do feel safe, like walking or running it in the evening, like making sure, investing in a reflective vest and a headlamp. And, the headlamps today are amazing. They're like, car headlights where you can really see a lot, and maybe take a friend with you or someone so you feel safer. But yeah, so what is your where? And, maybe it's open water swimming. I just became aware of, I think there's a group in Seattle and there's a group and maybe all over, but in Bellingham, where I am, Bellingham, Washington, these women, they're 50s to their 70s, and they do open water swimming now, and they meet as a group. So you can find your people if you need people, but just where do you like to exercise, and think about that. And that might not
And
always be
Carol,
ideal.
I do think what you touched on is important, is
Mhm.
understanding safety, especially if
Mhm.
you're alone or at night, and the importance of safety, that people either know your routes, that you pick a partner, that you're in daylight, whatever that might be, but safety is important.
Yes, and being aware of that. And yeah, and like I said, if you want to walk in your house, that's fine too. And looking for a partner, and if you are looking for a walking or running partner or an exercise partner, I did, I'll talk about it later, but did put up a blog on how to ask people, because it's like asking for a date sometimes. So just having that way. And with your where, I know Judy's on this call, but she does the Camino, before the pandemic, and I know, having something like that as a goal, through Spain and everything. So things like that. What's your where? And then the next is your when. And this is when you really have to put it in your calendar. It's really important. And maybe your when, and making a decision of when your when is. So you wouldn't probably miss a doctor's appointment or a hair appointment. So making your exercise, your movement, a priority. Is it going to be right when you get up in the morning, then have your clothes ready the night before? Or is it going to be before you check Facebook, you have to do, your 3-minute core workout? Is it going to be, right after work, you're going to stop by a trail? But really make that a priority. When is your when? And, your schedule might be a little wild, with, I know a lot of parents, if they're home with during the pandemic and things have changed so much. So making sure making sure to put it in there as a priority, because your health is your priority. I think we've learned that, this past 2 years, is that our health is our greatest asset. So how can we make it a priority? How can we schedule it in? And one thing I tell when I do live classes with walkers and runners, it's like, be selfish with this hour. You might have a friend that says, oh, I want to talk to you about this issue. And you had planned to go on a fast paced walk, and your friend's a little goes at a different pace. You might say like, hey, can we talk after? Or because whatever you need to fill up your cup during that hour of working out, or your 10 minutes, toddlers and babies are a different story. You just have to be there for them. But anyone else, learning to say no is important. So.
Well, I like what you said about, would you miss a doctor's appointment or a haircut? Never a haircut. And so why is it that we place priority on that and not necessarily our health, which is what you also said, our greatest asset? And I think that knowing when, and especially before you form a habit around it, getting in a routine with, the same time, I'm going to do it either every morning, every afternoon, every evening. Somebody talked about walking during the golden hours, like whatever it is, right? But getting specific and putting it in your calendar and guarding that time and that commitment to yourself. Yes. While you form the habit.
Yes. Yes. And the more people you can get involved with that, with support, and that's what we'll talk about next, is how. What is your how, and who are you going to bring on to support you if you need that support, or asking people to walk with you, asking people to hula hoop with you, whatever you need to do on Zoom, we can hula hoop together, who knows? Be creative, like whatever gives those heart sparkles. And, with that how, whether it's support from people you need, like, hey, can we go after dinner every day? Can we go for a walk? Or is it having that, I call it a hook or a lead action, like what's going to lead you into, so for example, like I turn on my coffee maker and I go in the living room and I do my 3-minute core without thinking, because anytime you can take that decision out of it, and I think it's called decision struggle. There's a psychological term for it. Like anytime you have to make the decision, like, oh, am I going to work out today? Am I going to move today? Anytime you can take that out, you're more likely to do that activity. So that's like, getting your clothes ready the night before for if you're going to go on a walk, or, your shoes right there, ready to go. And also having a hook, like I said, that lead action. And for me, with a 3-minute core, and also people might think this is gross, but I know I feel better if I stretch before I go to bed. So as soon as my toothbrush goes in my mouth, I put my foot up on the toilet and start stretching my hamstring. And then that leads me into the whole stretching routine without thinking. And another thing is delegating. And I know you had Christine Michelle Carter on one of your talks, I think in 2021, and she was excellent because she talked about delegating, saying no to things and delegating different things so you could have that time to exercise or to move. So those are made, so know your why. What are you going to do? Where do you want to do this? When, and then how? So getting clear on those, and then the decision's made, and you don't like every time like, oh, am I going to run today? Am I going to walk? Taking the decision struggle out is really a key part to it. And if you just have a list, like, okay, for 10 minutes, I'm going to do, this is what I like to do. Set a timer for 10 minutes, and then a timer for 1 minute beeps every 1 minute, and you'll just change your activity. Do as many push-ups as you can against the wall if you want. Do jumping jacks, get the hula hoop for a minute. And then after 10 minutes, you feel really alive and you did a workout, you move your muscles. So that's key.
I love what you said about the hook, and also about the decision struggle, because I think if you've already made the decision, then you're not dependent on how you feel, right? And so we all know when we wait to feel ready to write or to clean or to exercise, it's like, yeah, I don't feel like it. It's easier to do something more fun, right? And so making the decision in advance and knowing the night before, because some people might say, well, I don't have the luxury of every day at 7 a.m. knowing this is my time, but just making that decision the night before. Okay, what is going to be my 10-minute block tomorrow, and putting it in my calendar. So don't get caught up in, if you can't have it the same time every day, the same place every day, the same approach every day. You get to be flexible and fluid with yourself. So some of those excuses that maybe you've used in the past are no longer there, right?
Right. And, to Jennifer's point about keeping up with their toddler, your exercise might be a minute here, a minute there, but having the decision like, oh, I'm going to make sure I'm moving my body today, and being creative if you need to, like if you're with your toddler at the playground, maybe, get on the monkey bars or whatever you need to do, and not worry about societal norms and do your own thing.
Yeah,
so
that's great. So let's talk to two different groups that might be on the phone
Mm-hmm.
today. So there might be one group who has been wanting to include fitness, movement, exercise into their routine, but has struggled. And then there might be one group who already has that established as part of their life. So let's first talk to the group who is here, because they want to start incorporating movement as more of a daily practice. You've gone through this list of starting with why and ending with how, that I think is powerful. What, from your experience in working with your clients, would you say has been this something that you've witnessed when people have gone from no habit of movement to embracing a habit of movement? Have there been any other things that you've witnessed that you'd like to share, or stories?
So I think making that decision, like Claire did, she made a decision, like, I see my mom struggling, I don't want to be that. Making that decision is one of them. And also, finding a group, or, some people do like to be alone, but even if you like to be alone, there's still groups, running groups through running stores, or in town, or rowing, things like that. There are groups where you don't have to be like totally involved if you're not like a real extrovert, but you can, that support means a lot, and looking for that. And we have more access to that, with the internet and everything, to find those groups of people that, and it might take a while. You might need to do like dating, like try this group and they're not really my people. Maybe you're into jazzercise, think of things you enjoy doing. And then, it does take effort to go and join those groups, and it might take a while to fit in or whatever, but that's always been helpful. I had a live group before COVID at school, where we, twice a week, we showed up for an hour, and just the relationships that formed, and then they'd go off on their own and do, workouts together, and meet at different places, go out for coffee, when they could. And so bringing that social aspect into it, any way you can find support, and it might take a while, but doing things you love, and then looking for the people to help support you on that journey.
That's great. And then for those who already have movement as part of their practice, what do you recommend for kind of what's next for them, or how you help them level up?
Yeah. So leveling up is a good thing. You might be happy with your workout. You might be happy with what you're doing. What I found, I'm 52 now, but what I found when I turned 50 is I was like, I never get injured, like that ego. But I found that I was, especially from sitting with all the Zoom calls, I had gotten injured, and being barefoot for 2 years. So with that, going to a physical therapist and seeing that I couldn't do the exercise they were asking me to do. So building in different things like strength and balance, different balancing, you can use a video, you can look up balance exercises, get a balance board, things like that. As we age, balance is a really key component to, when they talk about breaking hips as we age, that's the real reason, is that you're not balanced. And I was surprised when I did go to the physical therapist that I was falling over and I was like, oh my gosh, my ego was, I had a hard time with that. But so trying different activities, and one thing with runners or walkers, we're always moving this way and not the lateral way. So doing different exercises, trying new things, it's good for our brain and also, good for our body to move in different directions. If you're have your exercise routine, maybe you've noticed like, hey, my arms are getting weaker if you're, not using those as much, and maybe doing just hand weights. One thing I do is my hand weights are out in the garage, and my fruit is actually out there because it stays longer. That's a whole different story. We don't have to keep our cars in the garage here, but and so every time I go out, I just do a simple weight workout, real quick, and then grab a banana and then head in the house. So just making things easier and adding fun things. And you might also want to, say you're a runner or a walker and you see like, oh, there's this group meeting, just meeting up with different people too. And you could find maybe people your pace. Yeah. So, and if anyone else has some ideas of what they've seen as they, if they've always been an exerciser, I'd love to hear your ideas too.
Well, I think two things, Carol. One is I like how you kind of are fitting movement into the nooks and crannies of your day, whether it's brushing your teeth or going out to get some fruit or whatever it might be, right? I think that's really important. It doesn't always have to be this big monumental routine. You can fit it in the nooks and crannies. When can you do a few, squats or whatever that might be. The other thing in your book, 26.2 Life Lessons, one of the things I really like is it broke into a series of 10-minute different exercises or different focal points for each day. So very digestible and very consumable. But I think we have a really great question here from Judy that I would love for you to answer. Do you have a 10-minute suggestion for the 50+ athletic crowd trying to keep balance and lean muscle? So these are people who are already athletic, they're 50+. What would be your 10-minute go-to workout for them? And go slow.
Okay. So even just standing, and I'll do this now, standing on one foot, but make sure you're very, make sure you're in a safe place, putting your arms out, standing on one foot. And then if you really want to try it, maybe set the alarm or 10 seconds even, and then try it with your eyes closed, but be very careful with what's around you. And it's amazing, like, try it after this call, or now if you want. Gwyneth is working out, which is great. So things like that with balance, and you'll be amazed. And look up different, Google different balance exercises. There's a lot out there, and just do that 10 minutes a day. And yeah, because you'll know, even if you're an exerciser your whole life, like what I found is I would say we're perfect, but we're not symmetrical. So like if you have a little hitch in your arm, because our bodies are not totally symmetrical. So as we age, those really become apparent, and there might be a side that's a lot weaker. So, like I said, going to a physical therapist and knowing where your weaknesses are and working on those. But yeah, looking up balance exercises, balance boards are really good. But even that, trying, one foot up, you'll be surprised. We think we can do it like we did when we were 10. Maybe that's just me and my ego. I'm not sure.
I'm glad that you mentioned balance boards. I think they're really fun too. What else? Because would you do balance for just 10 minutes like that, or would you incorporate some other things in that 10-minute window?
Yes, you could do, the balance for a minute, do one leg, then the other half a minute, and that would be difficult. And then maybe just do hand weights for a minute, and then do crunches for a minute, and then go back to your balance again. Mix it up a little. And I see that Joanne talks about Tai Chi and yoga. Those are great. And there's free videos online, which you can really give a yoga ball there, Monica.
I don't, sorry.
Okay, no.
but I am sitting on a stool, because sometimes, again, I change either if I'm sitting or standing, or where I'm sitting or standing, so that I'm not always in the same chair.
Good.
To me, that's important.
That's another thing too. Yeah, switching it up, because that same thing all the time. Even with running or walking, you know, I wear two different, I wear Asics and New Balance. I wear two different brands like every other day because your foot hits different, and then you don't have that wear and tear for the same.
Oh, that's a good tip. What other tips do you have?
Okay, so there's that. Running shoes are expensive. They get more expensive. They're, you know, 120 to 130 now dollars. So they've gotten very expensive, but they're so worth it. You know, if you think about your health, and our feet are so important. So I wear two different brands every other day, and that makes my foot hit a little different. And then, you know, I don't have the same movement hitting that same joint all the time. So I do that. Let's see what other tips. You know, don't wear cotton with running or walking or exercise usually. And socks are really important, good socks. And those are expensive. You think they're expensive for socks, but you know, $15 to $25, but they last forever. Like I've had to throw out some recently that were 25 years old. So they because they're synthetic or wool. Some people like wool too, but I wouldn't wear cotton socks because of the blisters. So that's a tip.
Oh, that's interesting to know. Okay, so Mary Ann said, bringing my groceries to the storage room and freezer in the basement, one item at a time to get my steps in. I love that. What a fun tip. And she smiles instead of frowning if she has to make another trip. So kind of making fun, making the chores fun, right?
That is a great idea. Instead of thinking like, oh, just going to do everything at once. And that's an awesome idea, making it.
And then Tai Chi for arthritis has helped my balance. That's awesome. Please add to the chat. We welcome
really
hearing
good.
the ideas. The other thing, I have to give a quick shout out. My mother is on the phone, and she'll kill me for saying this, but she turns 80 this year. And especially during the pandemic, she's a widow. She's been on her own, and she has made a daily practice of walking. And when she's in the Midwest, when it's too cold, she, like you said, walks around the house. And I think there is a mental benefit, especially for those of us who might be feeling isolated during this time or at any time. Can you talk a little bit about the mental benefits related to movement, Carol?
Oh, yes. I mean, that is actually one of the reasons I've always run because of the mental benefits. I think that's the number one benefit overall. I don't know if other people agree with that. But even getting, like, say you get outside for 10 minutes and really pay attention to how you feel before and how you feel after. And I always tell people after a hard workout, or, you know, or any kind of being outside in the wind and the rain, you know, when you come back in, really pay attention to how you feel. I've never had someone say, yeah, I went out for 10 minutes and I'm miserable. I'm even more miserable now. And so really pay attention to that, because it really can just, the endorphins, the movement, even if you're inside, just the movement, you know, brings that those endorphins forward. And I don't know how many of you have read the book Burnout by the two sisters. I'm trying to find other names. Nagoski, I think. I'm not sure if that's the correct way.
You can look it up and put it in the chat.
Okay. It's called Burnout, and it tells about women and how we're caretakers and things like that. And then how you know, if you're stressed or anything, that stress stays within your body, and like movement is the way to move that stress out. And we need to move. So I really recommend that book. I thought it was excellent. And with, you know, the mental benefits is great. And when you go, I always tell people, like when we run in the rain and things like that, or when you're walking in the rain, you know, I see people like this, like crunching up their face, or as they're working out, they're crunching up their face. I always tell people, just relax right here, and everything, your shoulders come down, your whole body relaxes. So next time you're out in the rain, walking, or get caught in the rain, just relax right there and just enjoy the rain hitting you. I mean, you don't have to enjoy the rain hitting, but just relax right there, and you'll find that your whole body relaxes. And that makes such a difference. And you know, with running or walking, like go in a puddle, you know, we get these things like, oh, I don't want to get dirty, or I don't want to get wet. And we crunch up. And even as we age, I find like we stay in this position, but just expanding yourself more. Like, you know, after you get done with your walk or whatever, just moving your arms, moving your legs, just expand your body a little more in your house, wherever you need to be. I do this after my run out, and twirl my arms, and expanding your body, and just the whole mental benefit for this, like you were saying, is huge. Just notice how you're feeling after, because sometimes that's going to be the thing to get you out there or doing your routine any other time. Like, oh, I know last time I felt really good. Right now I feel horrible, but I don't want to do it. But just, okay, I'm going to do it for 1 minute. Just get that movement going. And I've never had anyone say, yeah, I'm more miserable after walking for 10 minutes. So
that's right.
I don't know if you have, maybe if you have, please put it in the chat, because I would like to know.
No, it's so true. The hardest part is getting started, and then you think, oh, I'm so glad I did that, even if I didn't want to. So Judy also put a nice tip in here. I will pick a great audiobook and then use walking as my time to listen to it. So my treat is to listen and walk. And I liked what you said earlier about, creating little games with yourself. Like, I'm not going to check Facebook, or I'm not going to do whatever it is that you like to do. I'm not going to cook lunch until after I don't get lunch until I get my 10 minutes in. Whatever little games you need to play with yourself until you start to form that habit, I think is really important. One of the things you're talking about right now, Carol, is the power of, stretching. And I think sometimes we think for something to count, we need to be, and so sometimes 10 minutes might just be 10 minutes stretching. Talk to us about stretching and what you recommend.
Yes, stretching. And I do have 4 key stretches. There's a video, if you go to the Fit School YouTube page, there's 4 key stretches, and they're for your legs, but also any kind of, videos on stretching, yoga, all of that staying flexible throughout our lives. The key components of fitness are flexibility is one of them. Endurance, muscle strength, all those are really important. So the more we can move our bodies, stretch our bodies, you're going to be more limber. And like I said, I actually stretch before I go to bed, because I notice that I can get up and I'm not as creaky, and my knees work and all of that. So adding stretching into our lives. And some people like a roller. If you've seen those rollers that you can roll your calves on and your body on, and they kind of sort of like a massage. If you can ideally get a massage every day, that'd be ideal. But if you can't, then stretching is really good.
Oh, that sounds dreamy. A massage every day. I like what Nikki wrote, self-boundaries. Those are things we can tell ourselves. That's important. And it said, I have never exercised due to health conditions. Now in my mid-50s, my 90-year-old mother-in-law moves better than I do. I am thin, low on free time, and need low impact exercise to tone that are not hard on my joints. And she also said, thanks. Is there anything else you might recommend?
Just gentle moving. Asking your doctor, if you can see a physical therapist, because a physical therapist or an athletic trainer may be able to tell you movements that will be good for you. If walking is okay, like walking around your house, just any kind of movement you can do, stretching your arms, doing this with no weight, just your arms, doing this with just your arms, you'll find you'll get tired if that works. Any kind of, really pay attention to what's painful, but just, moving, putting on music and just flowing with it. Any kind of movement you can do, it's going to lift your mood. It's good for your muscles. It doesn't have to be like all the time. It can be gentle movements, and that's really important. And also, Monica, one thing you said about tricks too, I've learned this. My son, I have 2 children, one's 19, one's 21. And I learned, the trick thing and the movement during the day from my son, when he would put something in the microwave and we have a roundabout, and he would just put the timer on and just round as fast as he could. Because in the Pacific Northwest, you need to let your kids run in the house because it's raining most of the time. So just around and around and around. I'm like, that's interesting. Like any kind of movement, you have the microwave, you're waiting for the microwave, like doing push-ups against the refrigerator or something, just making it fun too.
I love that, looking for moments when you're standing and waiting for something, right? And what you can do, even if it's just kind of, moving your hips a little bit or whatever that might be. This is very inspiring. Okay, we have time for one or two more questions. Any other questions that you want to ask, put in the chat as they're doing that. Carol, we're going to send out an email after this event where we show people where to find you, and Natalia put in the chat the Team Fit School YouTube channel, which is great. Any other final thoughts that you have that you want to impart on the group today? And then we're going to talk about what our challenge is.
Okay. So just, I really would love for you to do something in the next 12 hours that, whether it's put something in your calendar, write a list of fun things you enjoy doing. Yes. Anything you can do to put movement into your day and just to bring more enjoyment and that psychological help. Also, my co-author, Cami Osman, and I, we have an adventure that we're doing right now together. It's called 2022 Seize the Day. What is it? Seize the Day Running Reset Adventure. We started it on Groundhog Day, but it's open for 6 months. And it's walking or running, and you get training plans, and you get the book, and we get live on Facebook every week to inspire you and ask you about training questions. And there's a monthly Zoom call. So if you'd like to join us on that's on thefitschool.com, or it'll take you to Team Fit School. Or also we have together, Cami and I have a website, rungoddessrun.com. And that has the book and everything there too. So that's rungoddessrun.com. So
that's good. We'll make sure we put all of this in the follow-up email in case everyone didn't catch it. So just know that.
Thank you.
But I think those are all great things. So back to this challenge. So I'd love for people to put in the chat what they are committed to doing after listening to Carol this morning in the next 12 hours around their 10 minutes of movement. Let's see what people say. And while they're doing that, Marianne also said Senior Planet is an affiliate of AARP that offers free webinars of exercise, finance, nutrition, etc. And there are so many great free resources. Revel 11 weekly has yoga and Pilates. There are so many great resources. So I love this. Walking dogs on a trail with lots of uphill. I love that. Good for you.
That is really good. And Terry standing on one leg when standing in line. And I think someone up above also said, while they're T-bruised, standing on one leg, getting that balance in. And with the uphills, I really like that. Okay, oh, wow, here we go. Good.
Rowing. The rowing machine, Judy, 10-minute core plank balance routine, 10-minute workout with my fave online fitness coaches. Oh, hula hoop, yay, I love it. I love hula hoop. And I'm surprised that I challenge people when they come over to see if they can hula hoop against me, and I win the competition. I'm very competitive. Going to take a walk, even though it's only 20, good for you, Jill. Taking a forest bath. I love forest bathing. That's wonderful. Thank you, Laura, for that reminder. 10-minute yoga stretches. For me, I have a regular dog walk routine I do, and I'm going to go for an extra 10 minutes today. That's my commitment. I'll do an extra 10. Working on balance along with stretching yoga. I love these. I love that you've been inspired today, as I have. Taking a walk, 3-minute plank and 7-minute walk every morning before work. Good for you. 10-minute sunset walk around my neighborhood. Oh, it's beautiful sunset time right now. The recording will be shared. Yes, all of our recordings are always available on the Revel 11 YouTube channel. Allison, 10-minute stretches. Working from home and changing chairs. I love that. My favorite trail, Sit and Be Fit, is a daily show for senior low impact. Great tip. Morning workout as daily as possible, with a smiley face. And I think what else is important, and we'll just end with this, is give yourself a lot of grace in this process. There is no such thing as perfection. It doesn't have to be, this gold star every day. Some days it might be, and some days It might be just showing up for a few minutes for yourself. So give yourself grace in this process, right? It's a journey.
Yes, yes, yes. And remember, your heart sparkles, and 10 minutes, even if it's 1 minute for the day, you've done something. Just movement anytime you can.
Progress, not perfection. Squats. Squats are really easy to incorporate in, a good thing. And I do squats when I brush my teeth. So again, I highly recommend Carol's book. I recommend you checking out the Fit School. Carol, it's always such a pleasure to be in conversation with you. Thank you so much for inspiring us at Rebel 11 today. Natalia, what's next on the Rebel 11 calendar?